All right, we just mentioned it. When the ball hits the ground, it doesn't stay a circle, right? There's that force happening there where it kind of squishes a little bit and then it pops back up to its regular size. So that's what we're going to execute next, and we're going to use the scale to do that. So if you want to just move your current time indicator to frame 1, we don't need to do anything here, right? Because our ball, we don't see our ball actually making impact with the ground at this point. It's over on frame, or sorry, at second 1, where it actually, that's the key point of impact. But if we make our ball squish too fast, you're not going to be able to see it, okay? So think about when a ball hits the ground, it actually touches, and it's actually touching the ground for more than just one frame. If it was just one frame, like, it's just too fast. It hits the ground, and then it squishes, and then that propels the ball back up into the air, in which it returns to its normal shape. So what we're going to do is, right before this 1 second, we're going to go a couple frames before that. You can see right here, I'm at 27 frames, right? So frame 27, just before that 1 second impact point, I'm going to insert my first keyframe. So I'm going to click on the little stopwatch right beside where it says scale to make that happen. Okay, so there's my first blank keyframe. Then I'm going to move my current time indicator to 1 second. So that is the maximum point of impact. So I want to change the scale of this object just vertically. Yep?
Where yours says like seconds and stuff, mine says like 0.5 feet.
Oh, that's frames. So you're zoomed way in. See this little diagram down here? Is it cranked all the way to the right? Is this moved all the way to the right? Because you're probably zoomed way in on your timeline. So zoom out and you'll be able to, when you start a new document and you define how long that document's going to be, it will show you the entire timeline here. So this is showing me up to 5 seconds from left to right. If you're zoomed in right here, these little like mountain things, you're not going to be able to see your entire timeline. So now you can actually see the individual frames. So I'm at 10 frames, 12 frames, 1 second, 0 frames, 1 second, 2 frames. Okay?
Why do I have to have that?
Just zoom out to see your entire timeline. Okay, so at 1 second, this is the maximum point of impact. Now I want to change the scale so that it squishes. I can do that right here. Again, this is where the magic happens, but I've got the constrained proportions turned on. That chain link is holding them to be the same proportion. I want to turn that off. I don't want to affect how wide it is. I just want to affect how tall it is. So you can change this by clicking on it and manually entering your own value, or you can just use your scrubby slider. I'm going to change this to something like 80% and hit enter. Yeah, maybe I'll go 70. We'll just make it over dramatic for the sake of being able to see it. Okay, and you see that now because I'm on 1 second, it's added that keyframe for me. Now at the same time, now that's the maximum point of impact, and I've skewed this shape. It needs to go back to its regular size. So on the exact opposite side of this frame where there's that impact, I need to return this to 100% on its y-axis. So I'm going to go to 1 second and 3 frames. You can manually enter that, or you can just make sure that that's what is displayed over here on the left. And I'm going to change this back to 100%. All right, so now if I scrub my current time indicator, there it is, that boing for lack of a better sound. Okay, and again, it's tedious, a lot of repetition, but we're going to do that throughout the whole process. So again, right 3 frames before that second point of impact, I'm going to insert a new keyframe. And this, don't trip yourself up here. I've already got keyframes inside of my scale property. To add another keyframe, I don't want to click the stopwatch, because if I click the stopwatch, I'm going to turn off that property and I'll have no scale keyframes happening. you want to click on this little diamond shape over here on the left. If I can zoom in, this is that little diamond shape. You can see when you hover over it. Add or remove keyframe at current time. So in my current time indicator, I'm 3 frames right before that impact. I'm just going to click on the diamond on the scale property to add that keyframe. And again, I'm going to leave that at 100%. That's where I want it to start. I'm going to move my current time indicator to 2 seconds. And then I'll change that scale to 70. And again, think about how you want this to look. Maybe you're going into much more detail than I am in this. If your bounce isn't as high, it's not going to squish as much. So if I know some people are kind of doing like, oh, the ball doesn't keep bouncing at the same height. Yeah.
So when they like, we're just doing this in the background, but when there's a like, can you in a video, it's the same idea, like over top of it. Like when we were watching the videos of like the weightlifter, like lifting the bar.
Yeah.
Is that like a video playing with?
Yeah. So they'll have a piece of footage playing in the background, whether that be like an MP4 or whatever,
yeah.
And then on top of that, they're going to use whether they be shape layers or whatever, and they're going to just superimpose that on top and have those show up and disappear wherever they want in their timeline. Yeah. Yeah. So there's my point of impact, and again, remember if you're doing something where the ball doesn't bounce as high every time it hits the ground, that's fine. That's more realistic. It's not going to squish as much, so maybe instead of doing 70%, you do 75 or 80 or whatever. Okay, and again, so I'm going to jump 3 frames after that point of impact, and I'm going to return this back to 100%, and I'm going to do the rest quite quickly just to save on file size for the recording. Oops. Does anybody have any questions, or is anybody kind of tripped up here? I'm going to take that as a no. And of course, I don't have to do the last one because we're not seeing that point of impact. All right, so the ball is getting there. It's a little bit more realistic if I just play the preview. Whoa, 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 whoa. That was Bush League. One, two. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, does anybody have any questions?